The loan officer's office smelled like printer ink and bad news. I had been a nurse for 4 years. I had delivered bad news myself, standing in hospital corridors at 2 in the morning, finding the words that never quite fit the weight of what they carried. I knew what it looked like when someone was about to say something difficult. She was about to say something difficult. "Miss Zoe," she said, setting her pen down. The specific gesture of someone who has decided that what comes next requires full attention. "I need to ask you some questions about your credit history." "Okay," I said. "There are 17 accounts associated with your social security number," she said. Asterisk, the total balance across these accounts is $63,000. She paused. "Can you tell me about your relationship with these creditors?" I looked at the list she slid across the desk. Store credit cards. Personal loans. A line of credit from a bank I had never used. Accounts going back 8 years, opened when I was 20, when I was a nursing student working double shifts to pay tuition, when I had no credit cards because I had no money and no reason to borrow any. "I don't have a relationship with these creditors," I said carefully. "I've never opened any of these accounts." She looked at me. "The addresses associated with all 17 accounts," she said, "are the same." She read the address. My mother's house. The house I had grown up in. The house I had not lived in for 6 years. I sat very still in that chair and felt the specific cold of something confirming itself, something I had suspected in the way you suspect things you are not ready to look at directly, in the peripheral vision of your own life. "I see," I said. My voice came out steady. For years of nursing had given me that, the ability to remain functional while something enormous was happening inside. "What are my options?" I said. I drove to the hospital after. Not home, the hospital. My shift started in 3 hours and I needed somewhere to be that was not my apartment, not my own thoughts circling the number 63,000. Not the list of 17 accounts with my name on them that I had photographed on my phone before leaving the loan officer's office. The hospital was solid. Real. The particular grounding of a place where the problems were immediate and required action. I changed into scrubs. I stood at the nurse's station and looked at the board and let the familiar rhythm of the ward organize my breathing. My colleague Priya appeared beside me. "You look terrible," she said, with the particular directness of someone who has worked night shifts beside you for 3 years and has stopped softening things. "Thank you," I said. "What happened?" I told her in 4 sentences. The mortgage application. The 17 accounts. The $63,000. My mother's address. Priya was quiet for a moment. "Your mother," she said. "Yes," I said. "What are you going to do?" A doctor called from down the corridor. Room 14 needed attention. I picked up the chart. "Right now," I said, "I'm going to do my job." "And after?" "After," I said, "I'm going to do what needs to be done." I walked toward room 14 and let the work hold me together while I figured out what doing what needs to be done actually meant. 3 days passed before I called her. Not because I needed time to confirm what I already knew, the credit reports were confirmation enough, but because I was a nurse and I understood something about preparation. You did not walk into a difficult situation without knowing exactly what you were carrying and what you needed. I spent 3 days gathering everything. Full credit reports from all 3 bureaus. Documentation of every account. The dates they were opened, the amounts borrowed, the payment histories, the collections notices. I built a file the way I built patient charts, complete, organized, nothing left out. On the 3rd evening, I sat at my kitchen table and looked at what I had built. $63,000. 8 years. 17 accounts. All of it traceable to a woman who had held me as a baby and taught me to ride a bike and driven me to school and also, apparently, spent 8 years using my identity as a financial resource she had decided she was entitled to. I called her at 7 p.m. She answered on the 2nd ring. "Zoe, I was just thinking about you." How is work? The warmth of it. The complete ordinary warmth of a mother who had been thinking about her daughter. Work is fine, I said. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. Of course. What's wrong? I applied for a mortgage last week, I said. Oh, how exciting. Mom. Gently. Firmly. The tone I used with patients who needed to hear something they weren't ready for. The application was declined. Because of 17 accounts in my name that I didn't open. Totaling $63,000. All associated with your address. Silence. Not long. Just a beat. The specific beat of someone whose carefully maintained ordinary warmth has encountered something it cannot immediately manage. I don't know what. I have the full credit reports, I said. Asterisk, I have documentation of every account. I have the dates they were opened and the amounts and the payment histories. I paused. I'm not calling to argue about whether it happened. It happened. I'm calling because you're my mother and I needed you to know that I know. The silence that followed was longer. Can I come over? She said finally. Saturday, I said. Come Saturday. I hung up. Sat in my kitchen in the particular quiet of someone who has done the hard part of a hard thing and now has to wait for what comes next. Outside my window, the city was doing what cities do, moving, indifferent, fully occupied with its own business. Somewhere in it, a woman who was my mother was sitting with the knowledge that her daughter knew. I made tea. I went to bed. I had a 6 a.m. shift and the ward didn't stop for personal crises. She arrived at 10. Brought pastries, the specific kind I had liked as a child, from the bakery near her house that she had always gone to on Saturday mornings. The gesture of someone who wanted the visit to feel like something it wasn't. I let her in. I did not take the pastries. We sat at my kitchen table with the credit reports between us, and I watched my mother look at what I had built, at the organized documentation of 8 years of choices she had made. And I watched her face go through several things before it settled into something that was not quite what I had expected. Not defensiveness. Not the deflection I had prepared for. Something that looked uncomfortably like relief. You know, she said. Yes, I said. She stopped. I've been waiting for this conversation for 2 years. That surprised me. 2 years, I said. I knew it would come eventually, she said. Asterisk, I told myself I would come to you first. That I would tell you before you found out. She looked at her hands. I didn't. No, I said. You didn't. I'm a coward, she said. Simply. Without the softening I had expected. I sat with that. Tell me, I said. From the beginning. Tell me how it started. She told me. The store credit card when I was 20, she had needed $300 for a car repair and her own cards were maxed. She had told herself it was a one-time thing. She would pay it back before I ever noticed. She hadn't paid it back. One thing led to another, she said. The words of someone describing a pattern they have examined and understand they cannot explain away. For 8 years, I said. Yes, she said. Mom, I said. Asterisk, I work 12-hour shifts. I work nights. I work weekends. I have worked since I was 17 years old to build a life that is stable and real. I paused. And while I was doing that, while I was building, you were dismantling. She flinched. Yes, she said. I need you to understand something, I said. This isn't about the money. Not primarily. It's about the fact that you looked at my life, my name, my identity, the financial person that I am, and you decided you were entitled to use it. I know, she said. Did you think about what it would cost me? I said. When you opened the first account. Did you think about what $63,000 of debt in my name would mean for my life? A long silence. No, she said. Quietly. I thought about what I needed. I didn't think about you. The honesty of it landed harder than denial would have. Thank you, I said. For saying that. What happens now, she said. Now, I said, I tell you what I've decided. In nursing there is a concept called triage. You assess the damage. You prioritize. You address what is most critical first and work systematically through what remains. You do not waste time on what cannot be saved. You focus everything on what can. I had been triaging my life for 3 days. What could not be saved? The 8 years. The $63,000 that existed. The mortgage application that had been declined. The clean credit history I had spent my adult life carefully maintaining. Those things were gone. No amount of confrontation or apology restored them. What could be saved? My financial future. My ability to buy a house eventually. My credit score, slowly, over time, through the careful systematic work of disputing accounts and documenting everything and having a lawyer who knew exactly what she was doing. And possibly, something with my mother. That was the triage. I had consulted a lawyer before Saturday. Her name was Patricia, and she had been recommended by my bank. She had reviewed everything and given me clear options and clear advice, and I had made my decisions before my mother arrived. I'm not filing a criminal report, I told my mother. She looked up. Not because what you did doesn't warrant one, I said. Asterisk, it does. What you did is criminal identity theft, and if you were a stranger, I would not hesitate. I paused. But you're not a stranger. And I've decided that what I want is not to see you prosecuted. What I want is my financial life back. How? She said. I slid a document across the table. A formal repayment agreement, I said. Legal. Documented. Every payment tracked. If you miss a payment, the consequences are specified and enforceable. She looked at the document. It will take years, she said. Yes, I said. It will. I'll sign it, she said. Without hesitation. The words of someone who has been waiting for accountability and is relieved to have found its shape. She signed it. I witnessed it. We sat at my kitchen table with the signed agreement between us and the pastries she had brought still in their box unopened. What else? She said. What do you mean? I said. What else do you need from me? She said. Beyond the money. I thought about it. Honesty, I said. Going forward. If you need help, financial help, any kind of help, you ask me directly. You don't take. You ask. And if you say no, she said. Then I say no, I said. And you accept it. Okay, she said. And Mom. Yes. I need you to get help, I said. Asterisk, financial counseling. Someone who can help you understand money in a way you clearly never have. I paused. Not as punishment. Because you need it. Because the pattern that led to this will lead somewhere else if you don't address it. She nodded slowly. I'll go, she said. This week, I said. This week, she agreed. I stood up. I picked up the pastries. I put them on the counter and got 2 plates. We ate in the particular quiet of people who have been through something and are not yet sure what they're on the other side of it. Not comfortable. Too much had happened for comfortable. But present. Both of us present in the same space, choosing, for now, to continue. That was something. The night shift at the hospital was its own world. 3 a.m., and the ward was the particular quiet that hospitals get in the deepest hours, not silent, never silent, but settled. The rhythms of machines. The occasional soft footsteps of a colleague. The specific contained world of people doing difficult work in the dark while the rest of the city slept. I stood at the nurse's station and updated charts and thought about triage. 6 months of it. 6 months since the loan officer's office and the 17 accounts and my mother's address on everyone. 6 months of Patricia Chin and credit disputes and the slow systematic work of reclaiming a financial identity that had been used without permission for 8 years. 9 of the 17 accounts successfully disputed and removed. 8 remaining in process. My mother had made 6 payments. Small amounts, what her income allowed after essential expenses. Not enough to make the debt disappear quickly. Enough to demonstrate that the agreement was being honored. She had started financial counseling the week after Saturday. She had told me about the first session on the phone, the particular mixture of shame and relief of someone who has finally been given language for a pattern they have been living inside without understanding. She said I have what they call financial avoidance, my mother had told me. That I spend to manage anxiety and then avoid looking at what I've spent because looking at it makes the anxiety worse. That makes sense, I said. It doesn't excuse. No, I said. It doesn't. But understanding something is the first step to changing it. I know, she said. I'm trying. Priya caught me in the break room at 4 a.m. She poured 2 coffees without asking and sat across from me with the particular efficiency of someone who has very little time and intends to use it. Update, she said. 9 accounts down, I said. 8 in process. Mom is making payments. Financial counseling is happening. And you, she said. Me, I said. Not the credit score, she said. You. I thought about it. I'm okay, I said. Actually okay. Not performed okay. What changed, she said. I thought about triage. About the systematic work of assessing damage and addressing what could be saved and not wasting energy on what couldn't. I stopped being angry about the 8 years, I said. They're gone. Being angry about them doesn't bring them back. What I have is what I do from here. That's very nurse of you, Priya said. I almost laughed. Occupational hazard, I said. She raised her coffee cup. I raised mine. We drank in the 4 a.m. quiet of a hospital ward where people were sleeping and healing and occasionally not making it, and where the work continued regardless, steady, necessary, the particular dignity of showing up for what needed to be done. The mortgage application was resubmitted in November. Not approved, not yet. The credit score was improving, but not yet where it needed to be. Patricia estimated another 8 months before the disputed accounts were fully resolved and the score reflected the actual person I was financially. 8 months. I had waited longer for less important things. I had a plan. A timeline. Documentation of everything, the disputed accounts, the repayment agreement, the evidence of the financial identity that was mine and had been taken and was being returned to me through systematic, careful work. I had learned something from 4 years of nursing. Healing is not an event. It is a process. It requires assessment and intervention and monitoring and time. It requires showing up every day and doing the work even when the work is slow and the progress is incremental and the desired outcome still feels distant. It requires patience with the process even when the process is difficult. And it requires, above all, the clear-eyed honesty to assess what is actually happening rather than what you wish were happening. What was actually happening? My credit score was improving. My mother was in counseling and making payments. I was sleeping better than I had in months. And somewhere in a bakery near my mother's house on Saturday mornings, she was still buying the specific pastries I had liked as a child. She brought them every time she came. I had started accepting them. Not because everything was fixed. Because some things, broken and being repaired, were worth accepting pastries over. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Has someone you trusted ever cost you something significant? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. Tell me where you are watching from. I love knowing how far these stories reach. Until next time, triage your life. Save what can be saved. Let go of what can't. And show up for the work.